Hello there, friendly people on the internet. My name is Landon, and I run a channel called Not Normal, a name that I share with several other gacha creators. And if you ask me how I feel about that, I'm definitely not okay. However, that's not what we are here for. 2022 review. Yes sir, that's where we're at today. However, since I am an indecisive and tired human being, I am changing this looking back at my personal experiences with media 2022 and changing it into my personal best things from 2022. And I'm doing this because instead of seeping hours of my life into something I don't really have that much passion talking about, I instead want to talk about what I loved this year. And again, it doesn't need to come out this year. It can come out any year as long as I experienced it for the first time this year and loved it. So with all of that said,
so do you remember how last year in that 2021 reviewed video I said I started watching Lost and how I only around 15 episodes into the first season thought it was really good and how it seemed to know what it was doing? Well, I finished it and oh my god, I didn't know what the show was. Lost is a series that, at least for the first 3 seasons, is grounded and for the most part is about a bunch of survivors of a plane crash trapped on an island trying to not only coexist with it and the mystery surrounding it, but also with each other. And it's a simple premise that is executed absolutely masterfully. These people have to depend on each other to survive, and that rising tension creates some dramatic storytelling, each of these characters acting not rationally, not carefully, but human, allowing these people to make mistakes, to burn bridges and relationships and be frustrating to watch. But it also spends time making you invested into these characters' stories and their lives as you watch as they change over time. Take Sawyer. When we first meet him, he's this selfish and cruel person who seems to hate everyone that tries to connect to him. The way he insults people, the way he treats them, it makes him seem like a comedic relief tool used to poke fun at the other characters and their situations. However, then the show dives into who this guy is. A lost person with nothing to live for and nobody to care about. And over time, he begins caring about the people he is surrounded by, becoming a genuinely heartwarming character and a fan favorite. And that's just something that Lost is really good at, creating characters that become the heart of the show. However, the thing is, Lost had no idea where it was going, introducing mysteries that the writers themselves, didn't even know how to answer. While during the first 3 seasons, the show's writing and narrative is grounded and simplistic while being captivating and addicting, after season 3, the show loses its mind. And to simply try to articulate that insanity in a couple of sentences would be absolutely impossible. And yet, I would be lying if I said that I did not have a blast with those 3 seasons. Lost is the definition of unplanned writing, forced deadlines, and no clear direction, but it's executed so well, those previous problems don't matter. And I don't think I can really make you see that without either forcing you to watch it yourself or to make an entire video on it. Jujutsu Kaisen is a shonen show about teenagers saving the world from forces of evil and straight up assaulting each other while doing it. I understand that this is a tough sell. The thing that makes Jujutsu Kaisen so compelling, at least to me though, is how it's executed. Because at its core, it's just another shonen, sure, but I mean, for crying out loud, look at this, look at these fights, look at these character designs, look at this fictional character that they invested 90% of their budget into. Money well spent, by the way. Jujutsu Kaisen, as said by everybody else on this platform, is nothing new, nor is its story going to change the way you look at life. But it is a progression of what is so familiar about Jump, using this childlike and nostalgic way of storytelling to tell a story filled with charm, humor, and maturity. Whether you have been watching shonen since you were a kid, or like me, you are incredibly new to this form of media, I would absolutely recommend giving Jujutsu Kaisen a shot. Cowboy Bebop is a vibe. It is a show set in the future about a group of bounty hunters that travel intergalactically to different planets to hunt down criminals and make a quick buck while doing it. It's a fun Saturday morning cartoon where you get to see these characters that you bond with over time go on fun adventures, each different and unique. The crew of Bebop, like the tone of the show, has a playful attitude to it, whether that be the young tech genius Ed stealing the last of their food, or Faye making fun of Spike's condition after risking his life saving her. And the show's environments give off this chill and low-key aesthetic and vibe to it, along with the music, heavily jazz-related, setting this lo-fi kind of feel, providing the show a relaxed tone to it. However, I would be lying if I said that's all the show is. Cowboy Bebop is a vibe. It's playful, it's funny, it's charming, and it's relaxed, but it's also very adult, sadistic, and mature. Most of the crew of Bebop are adults. They have lived hundreds of lives, and they're one and are haunted by their past. These character stories have already ended. We're just seeing the results of their actions. And sure, these characters are funny, witty, and they do stupid stuff and involve themselves in dumb antics, but they're also tired. Tired of the burdens that life provides, tired of the memories that haunt them, tired of carrying that weight. And although they come across people that have a happy ending, that laugh and smile at the end, they also encounter people that are just like them. People whose stories don't end the way they should. Stories that end tragically. And while the show's style is relaxed yet fun, calm yet energetic, refreshing yet familiar, at its core, it's a story about these broken people and how they desperately want to live. And that story is brutal, it's cold, but it's also strangely human and relatable. And whether you start the show for the style or the setting, it's a show that will have you feeling incredibly warm throughout, but also leave you empty. And in the show's own terms, you're going to carry that weight. Stranger Things is a series I avoided due to the amount of hype surrounding it, only to watch it over the summer and immediately respond with, I was wrong, it's pretty good, okay fellas, just don't calm down. The first season is great. It manages to build a solid mystery with so many good characters, and it manages to develop horror in such an intriguing way. There's nothing really new with this season, it's just a culmination of old horror concepts thrown into one, and it manages to pay homage to those movies while standing out. Stranger Things was a success and people wanted to see more of it, resulting in multiple seasons. And the result of that decision is that the following 2 seasons are still pretty good. There's clearly a drop in quality here, partly because of all the characters and subplots they introduced, but it's still an engaging and fun ride that manages to take genres and mash them into one really well. And then this year, season 4 was released and I personally loved it. And while yeah, it does have a lot of subplots to follow, some of which matter and others that don't, I would be lying if the season didn't make me laugh, make me hope to God this isn't a documentary, and most importantly, make me feel something. So if you enjoyed the first season of the show but fell off shortly after that, trek on and watch this season. It manages to take all of the good things from the previous seasons and creatively flip those ideas on its head. Cyberpunk Edgerunners is a 10-episode ad for an unfinished, broken, and buggy game when first released. I know a lot of people were let down by CD Projekt Dredd, but guys, just for one moment, I need you to put your grudges aside, because this is probably the best ad I've ever seen since Tyler the Creator tried promoting adoption.
We'll get some tacos soon.
Cyberpunk Edgerunners is downright insanity. Just one look at this show and you can tell 2 things. 1, that this show is really colorful, and 2, that this show is downright eccentric in the way these characters are animated, how these fights are shown, and how this world is designed. The show's action is balls to the wall, having things somehow make sense and be comprehensible, while also creating some of the wackiest ideas and craziest animation for these fights. And the world the story takes place in is just wow. Cyberpunk 2077 had a gorgeous world that, even with the problems with that game, had so much inspiration and creativity in it. However, in Edgerunners, that world is fully realized, somehow creating a trashy and disgusting yet beautiful and captivating city. So pretty much it's just LA on steroids. But beneath this world, beneath this action, beneath this animation is a genuinely heart-wrenching story with incredibly human characters that shows all of the highs of living an exciting and crime-focused lifestyle, while also showing the painful results of those choices. So if you're looking for a show that's both bonkers yet genuine, then I highly recommend you give Cyberpunk Edgerunners a shot. Chainsaw Man is a show that I heard about and was optimistically looking forward to its release, and after watching the first 3 episodes, I decided to read the entirety of the manga. And well, look man, not only is the story of Chainsaw Man possibly one of the most human and passionate stories I've ever read, but it is a story that shows pain, suffering, but also happiness and joy. And if you've ever read the manga, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I continued to watch the adaptation as each episode released weekly, and after finishing the first season, all I can say is that I am absolutely ecstatic about how the people over at MAPPA decide to portray the story and how the series will impact the industry as a whole. Okay, so I know this is kind of cheating, but I've been rewatching Toradora for the first time in 5 years, and I kinda love this show. I could go on about the fluid animation, the random yet charming humor, or how I apparently like abusive women, but what I find interesting is how now that I'm closer in age to these characters, I find them more human, more relatable, more alive. I've met people like Amy, I know people like Kitamura, I understand Taiga, and that's something that I couldn't quite understand 5 years ago. And while it's incredibly simple in premise and in narrative structure, I think that it's also really honest about the struggles we as people go through and how we try to hide those struggles from others. And look man, I get it. Why should you care about how I'm beginning to relate to fictional characters? And I can't really give that an answer. The only reason I'm talking about it now is that it may be the only opportunity I have to mention it due to the kind of videos I make. So even if you have no interest in anything I just said, I'd highly recommend giving Toradora a shot. Upgrade is a 2018 film about a man named Gray, who after being mugged, paralyzed, and left for dead watching his wife die in the process, undergoes a surgery that not only allows him the miracle to walk, but also to hear the computer giving him that miracle, him deciding to go get revenge on the people that murdered his wife. If I could compare this movie to anything, I would say it's a much cleaner, much better version of Venom with a $3 million budget, and while the movie as a whole is an absolute blast, it is the last 10 minutes that, while predictable, made me feel genuine dread. And the thing is, ruining the last 10 minutes would ruin the entire reason why you should see it. So if you're looking for a fun movie with a great ending as well, then Upgrade is a film I absolutely recommend. Now You See Me is bananas, it's insane, it's hysterical, and it is an absolute blast, at least for me, because a lot of people don't actually like this movie, and that's a shame, because I think if you look past the insanity of its premise and its story and its magic tricks, which is simply called editing by the way, I think that Now You See Me is so much fun. I have always thought that Michael Bay is a talented man that is willing to experiment with something new, whether or not that experiment is a success. However, his latest movie, Ambulance, I believe, is one of the better experiments. A movie about two brothers robbing a bank, one for paying for his wife's cancer treatment and the other because he likes the thrill of it. However, when the heist goes wrong and the entire team is killed, leaving just the two brothers, they are forced to steal an ambulance carrying an injured cop as a getaway car. The brothers not only being tailed by the whole city police, but having to keep the cop alive else they get killed. And sure, the movie is insanity and at points nonsensical, but my god, I would be lying if I said this wasn't the most intense film I've seen all year. With that tension building not just between the protagonist and the police, but also between the two brothers. So if you're up for getting your heart rate to go up to its breaking point, I highly recommend you check out Ambulance. Okay, so I know this is every grandparent's new favorite movie, but I honestly really enjoyed Top Gun Maverick. It builds off the concepts of the first movie while being its own story, and it uses those building blocks to not only create tension, but stakes. While it doesn't necessarily do anything all that new, I think the reason why I put this on here is, well, 1, I flew a plane before I drove a car and I feel validated, and 2, I think this just feels like a love letter to films in general, and that's something you don't often see in the western side of Hollywood. Okay, so I need you to understand that whatever I say next, I very much mean. Sonic 2 is absolutely incredible, it's so much fun, it's exhilarating, and it feels like a work of passion for the fans, whether that be the references or the actual major plot devices. Sonic 2 made me feel like a kid again, and I cannot be more thankful. You got that good. Also, the Batman was pretty good too. Yeah, great movie. I would say more, but everything that can be said has been said. So moving on. The Prestige is a movie that had me laugh, had me feel something, had me confused, and left me with dread. And it uses each and every single one of those feelings to convey a story filled with pain, wonder, and horror. As you watch these two magicians put themselves through pain, misery, and emptiness just so that they can take a pathetic stab at the other. Watching this bitter conflict deliver a story that would end up haunting me throughout the year, that's something that was as surreal as it was terrifying, and is something I recommend you watch to understand. On the complete opposite note, Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish is probably my favorite animated film of the year, and if someone asked me why animation is such a popular medium, this, Spider-Verse in Your Name, would be the films I'd point to. But we'll get to you. We will get to you. And it, simply put, gave me a blast of a movie filled with incredible animation that clearly takes inspiration from Spider-Verse and is all the better for it. Characters that feel very sincere and are a blast to watch, and humor that had me on the floor more than once, especially since I didn't see a single trailer. So yeah, go support this movie while you can. I want another one. If you've been alive for a certain period of time, you know that family member or friend that you watch slowly transform from a good, honest, and genuine person into a shell of who they once were, transformed by the burdens of this world and the awful things in it. And if you've watched that happen to someone you care about, you're familiar with the miserable feeling of hoping that they would get better and find help, hoping that they would be that person you once knew, but knowing that they will never be that way again. Howard is that person. Uncut Gems is a movie about this man that has everything to lose and yet he does not care. He has a wife that is more genuine than anyone he's ever met, yet he cheats on her with someone much younger than he is. He has kids that love him and want him in their lives more, yet he ignores them. He owns a well-known jewelry store but is also hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and yet Howard doesn't care. He doesn't care about the people in his life, he doesn't care about the people that do business with him, because after all, life is just something that revolves around the next big score, the next big sell, the next big dream. And that greed is something that Howard gives up everything for, digging a bigger hole for himself with each and every decision. And Uncut Gems manages to replicate the stress Howard feels with the debt suffocating him, but it also captures that feeling of watching someone you love slowly fade away. And those 2 hours are filled with tension, adrenaline, and dread, knowing what's coming yet hoping that Howard will turn his life around. And those 2 hours of emotions is something I doubt a movie will ever replicate for me again. A Silent Voice is a film I watched one evening knowing it would hurt me but deciding to do it anyways. I'm stubborn, I know. However, the thing with most movies depicting potentially sensitive topics like bullying, depression, and anxiety is that they tend to draw them out and make them more dramatic and movie-like, if that makes any sense. However, A Silent Voice is a film that touches on those topics not only with care, but with raw emotion woven in. There's simply put moments of you staying with these characters, whether that be on a Ferris wheel, during a routinely breakfast, or in an apartment complex, and over time you begin to care for them and understand them, which makes the subtle moments where they just sit there in silence or watch a fireworks show in awe yet sadness as beautiful as they are heartbreaking. It's a film that makes you understand the isolation these people feel, and I use the word people because that's what it feels like. These don't feel like drawings with a script behind them, they feel like real people you would meet in the real world, each with their own problems. There's a scene early on involving the main character and his mom, and it absolutely destroyed me in a way that I cannot encapsulate. And while I know I'm kinda rambling at this point, it's a movie that looked me in the eye and told me it's going to be okay, and I think that's a message a lot of people, including myself, needed to hear, and one I think a lot of people still do. Bullet Train is a film that just felt like it had no limits. It throws the wackiest ideas into a film and then makes them a blast to watch. They made Thomas the Train a good joke and an integral part of the film. How do you even do that? But even still, Bullet Train is a blast of a movie that you'll either love or despise. Your Name is a film I watched the following morning after watching A Silent Voice. My heart was definitely in its way to being put in a coma. Your Name is beautiful in every single way imaginable. It's a film that just looking at one of the many shots filled with wonder and excitement makes you feel something genuine and heartwarming. It is quite simply a beautiful film to look at, an even more gorgeous film to experience. The story is a huge sci-fi epic, sure, but dear God, if this story and the characters surrounding it didn't make me feel joy, sorrow, and awe, then I have absolutely no idea what being human even means. Your Name is simply breathtaking in every sense of the word, and the more I think about it, the more I love it. So huge props to Makoto Shinkai and the entire team that worked on this film. He made something really special that slowly became one of the best things my eye laid eyes upon all year. Sekiro was my very first Souls game that I played this year, right behind Dark Souls, and I can see why people want to commit arson after playing these titles, but I can also see why they are so special to so many people. And the reason Sekiro stuck out to me was that 1, I liked the combat and the setting more, and 2, every victory felt earned to me. It felt like I improved as a player and that I overcame an impossible challenge, and that satisfaction in myself and my abilities kept me playing for hours. And that's not to say Dark Souls didn't provide that either, but I felt that satisfaction more in Sekiro, and all I can say is that it was a really special experience that I don't plan on forgetting anytime soon. Okay, so I finally got around to Hades this year, and it was an absolute joy. However, a confession first, I don't really like roguelikes. They're fun in the moment, sure, but to me, when I die, I don't feel encouraged to keep playing. I feel like my time was wasted, and that was my worry about Hades. However, this game acknowledges those failed attempts, not only making you feel they were worth something, but progressing the story through those attempts. And that's something I really enjoyed, because it makes the player invested not only in this world and its inhabitants, but the gameplay itself, and it's really fun. And it's simple at its surface, but it's really difficult, and that's something I adored about it. Hades was a blast, and still is, because there's a lot of replayability in it, and I keep coming back for more. Inscription is a game where you play cards against your will while fighting for your life. And it is exhilarating, and there is so much strategy that comes into play. It is simply a bizarre experience, yet it manages to entertain you for a while with its complex game mechanics, each death resulting in a new card unique to you, thrown in a stack of other cards, and a new run right from the beginning. And it is so much fun. I have just lied to you. Inscription is a card game, but it is not only that. It is something more, something sinister, something dreadful, and to tell you what this game truly is would rob you of the experience. The best way I can describe this game is that this is a surreal, fourth wall breaking nightmare of a game that will take you to places you would have never thought possible. And it is one of the most interesting experiences I have ever had in a video game, and is one I doubt I'll ever forget. I've already made a video on both Hyper Light Drifter and Final Fantasy VII, so I'll keep this brief, but both of these games were simply put incredible experiences and clearly had a ton of passion and effort put in, and I honestly think the result of both of these games proves that. So huge props to the developers of both of these games, and especially Alex Preston for being able to create something special with the condition he has. So yeah, anyways, do y'all like drug trips? Katana Zero is a game that makes you, the player, feel high. Let me explain without promoting drug use. You play as Zero, a sword-wielding assassin who is on a drug called Chronos, which allows its users to see every possibility of the future, as well as slow down time for their perception. The gameplay portraying this as every death is a possibility of the future Zero sees, with each successful run being his actual attempt. And the game itself uses this simple concept of seeing into the future and slowing down time to create some really challenging and adrenaline-pumping moments that are just, oh my god, they're so much fun, man. However, what I loved is how this game makes you experience the effects of Chronos. The more you play, the more you don't know what's real, what's fake, what's a side effect, and what's simply your mind trying to recover. And all of this culminates into an adrenaline-filled drug trip that was an absolute blast to experience. Can't wait for YouTube to flag this video now. Normally, I would never recommend you a game just for the art style and pixel art alone, but with Eastward, it is so easy to do so. And I mean, just look at this, man. Look at these character designs. Look at the expression of this opening animation alone. Look at this pixel art. Look at these colors. Eastward is the first and maybe one of the only games I would ever recommend based simply on how it looks. So when I put this on here, you know that this game, no matter what moment and no matter what frame, always looks amazing. The world surrounding these characters is just so immersive and pulls you in, and the quirky characters are heartwarming and a joy to watch. Eastward is a game that lives off of expression, and while the game mechanics and RPG elements are decent at best and it takes a while to get going, Eastward is a game that if you can find on sale is one I recommend just for getting swept up in this world and these characters' journey. Sonic Frontiers is the most fun I've had with a Sonic game in almost 10 years, and I mean that. Sonic Frontiers world was so much fun to explore, the combat was a blast, the bosses were so good, and the story and moments between characters made me, as a lifelong fan keeping up with this series, feel like I was being rewarded for doing so. Sonic Frontiers, like Sonic 2, made me feel like a kid again, the only thing mattering that the new Sonic game was out and that I was playing it. And this is coming from the Switch version, the one that looks the worst, and I still had a blast. So if you're new to the series, this is a great open world game and an even better game for those who have been with the character for as long as I have. So before I say anything about Cyberpunk 2077, I just want to say that the way CD Projekt Red released this game was clearly unacceptable, and they got all the hate they deserved. But I didn't play it on release, I played it on New Year's Eve for like 8 hours straight. Cyberpunk 2077 at its core is a great game. I had so much fun just walking around this huge beautiful city, completing jobs, each with their own story involved, and just meeting new people and seeing the story for what it is. Is it the game that we were promised? No, but I think at its core, it's a great game that while glitchy at points is still a really solid experience. Silent Hill 2 was just so good, man, and I mean that. While the opening 3 hours are terrifying, they can also be pretty confusing, so much so I needed a guide more than once. However, even still, Silent Hill 2 is a terrifying game that uses atmosphere for creating fear and its story to create depth to this world and its characters, and it just never made me feel safe, and that's something only Silent Hill 2 has ever been able to do for me. I do have my doubts about the remake, but I think that if it's done with a certain amount of care, it can be possible. So no Silent Hill 2 is the game that can never be remade video, that was like a one-time thing, alright? Hey there, thank you so much for watching this video, I really do appreciate it, and I also want to shout out my mom who created 400 alternate accounts and subscribed to this channel. Okay, but like all jokes aside, thank you guys so much. Like, this year in its entirety was just so surreal, right? Like I know it's kind of, I know, and like to you guys maybe it seems like a small number, but to me it was really big. Like just like, let's see, I got 200 views pretty consistently near the end of the year on the videos, and then I made a video titled Final Fantasy VII, the game that can never be remade, and that video just straight up blew up. That video was watched 23,000 times, and that is a huge number to me. That is just borderline insanity. I mean, I woke up, I looked at that number, I didn't think it was real. I had to do a double take, man. There's 400 of you now, and that kind of scares me in a way, not gonna lie to you, but I hope I can entertain you throughout this year, and screw it. I hope you guys, whoever's watching this, I hope you have a fantastic 2023. So, yeah, that's really all I gotta say. Yeah. That's about it, man. Have yourself a good one and have a fantastic year. I'll see you next time, man.